Hey, today's video is about if I were the devil, what would I do? What would I do? I would say more in modern society. I'm going to say some personal messages first before I get to this video. But I heard this topic being discussed on Ruslan. It was Joe Rogan. He makes a lot of videos. He does a lot of videos with, he's in apologetics, and he does videos, and he does a lot about Joe Rogan. He wants Joe Rogan to, because he has a big following, to turn Christian, right? Obviously, that's the goal of, that's our hope with everyone. And Joe Rogan was playing a clip from 1965. I didn't listen, I just listened to some of it, and it gave me the idea, and I wrote down myself, what would I do to society if I were the devil? And yes, I heard some of those, but it's quite obvious the things you would do. Just some personal stuff first. Yeah, I was sick in the last videos. It's because I am going through a kidney stone. It moves when it wants. That's just the nature of my life. It sucks. I can only eat select foods, and those good foods that I do eat cause it, and that's just the way my life is. So I have to live a life that counters that. Drink a lot of water, eat a lot of citrus fruits and stuff. A word of warning. I showed you in my last video there, this that I'm working on woodwork. I have I have tools to cut, to polish, to sand. I have all that stuff. But because of living in an apartment, I was doing it by hand, and so I have a block of wood, and it was a 4x4. And it actually gave me crap. It was all cracked and stuff, so that's why you see. But you can see I've learned how to shape it and stuff like that. You see the top there? Don't look at this stuff because it's not done, and this isn't done either. But you can see I've never done this before, and I learned how to just like shape it with hand tools, and I was hand sawing. I was, using a coping saw, and what else was I using? I was using a rasp, so the rasp, and then sanding. And I was doing that, and what was happening to me was I wasn't feeling good after doing it, and I never knew why. I was like really dehydrated, and remember maybe 2 or 3 videos ago, I said, it may have just been my last video, I've just been so sick that I said I had sleep paralysis. Well, sometimes I get sleep paralysis, it just happens, like when I'm feeling well. It always happens when I'm doing well. But what had been happening was the sawdust that, like, I'd wear a mask, I'd say about 75% of the time. Just using a saw, just using a coping saw and sawing and using a rasp without using any electrical power was causing sawdust to go probably in my lungs. But when I would lie down in bed, I would wake up, I'd have my sleep paralysis episode. So it happened 2 nights in a row, and I noticed what was causing it. I'd wake up and my nose, first it was my right nostril was blocked, and I've had a broken nose a few times, and you can probably tell there's like, I don't know if you ever see my videos, there's a cut here. I don't know if you ever see that, but that's from a broken nose. You can kind of see the jagged, but anyways. And then the second night it happened again, but it wasn't nearly as bad, and it's causing disordered breathing. So when you work with wood, and I had to look it up, how bad is it when you get sawdust and it's not good. I think it's probably worse than smoking. I'm not kidding you. Sawdust is bad for your lungs, it's bad for all your nasal anyways. That disorder managed to wake me up just by, or to cause sleep paralysis, because I know that, like, 98% of my sleep paralysis episodes were caused when I could breathe just fine. But these two are because of my nose. And, but it happened anyways, so. Okay, I'm gonna get to this topic here. Be careful, wear a mask, wear a respirator. These things, these things can cause you can start doing hobbies and never know it, right? If I were the devil, so I'm gonna take a sip and a bite here, and I'm gonna read this. I just wrote stuff down in depth. Trying to give you a little bit more to look at back there. Okay, I recently, briefly heard on Ruslan, a 1965 video, and you can look back, it's not that long ago, on Ruslan, a video telling people what he would do if he were the Prince of Darkness, which freaked Joe Rogan out because what was said in 1965 came true. So this man said this before all this stuff happened. He hit it the head of a nail. He hit it right on. I didn't listen to all of it, but I heard on Ruslan. Is it really that hard to put yourself in that place and imagine what you would do to reverse what God intended? And it's made easier now due to the implementations of media, internet, devices, and television. This is what I would do. With new technology to reach anyone en masse, it's nearly unstoppable, except you pull the plug. But I do believe in my heart what the leaders of the churches do have a level of responsibility to sway public opinion and actions. So it's much more powerful than you think. What happens inside with believers and leaders. If I were the devil, this is what I would do. Number one, gotta make sure this is recording. I would attack some of the most important things: the family, schools, and churches. Right there, those three are paramount to dismantling it all, which would cause a cascading effect with the rest. Is this not Alice Bailey's plan? So if you go look up Alice Bailey and look at her plan of what she said to do, that would completely disrupt God's plan, society. I read it, and it's what's happening. Alice Bailey. We may not agree with the Catholic Church, but believers are still good people, because when you look at that, that's where most of the believers are, and we are the salt of the earth, right? And when the salt loses its flavor, so does the earth, right? So, and I did hear this: start making rumors like in the church, but not outwardly. Infiltrate the church in every sector and even pay people off. So do this, and have in mind you got to do this over decades. So you got to get people who have a certain ideology into places of authority. Make rumors about good leaders, rules, how outdated they are. For example, LGBTQ woke. Do what you can to reverse the strictest laws that represent God. All you have to do is hammer at it, hammer at it, hammer at it. For instance, images of worship, ideology, like you see what's happening in the Catholic Church. Infiltrate the church with gay priests to change the laws and the minds of others, to just accept the way of the world and the order of things. Is that happening? Yes. It'll take time, but with the slow infiltration of woke priests, it will work. So I do believe that was done. You can look that up about, okay, I said it was Vatican. It's not Vatican, but I'm sure they did it there too. At one time, being gay was considered a mental illness. It was in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, the DSM, for mental disorders. And don't get angry at me about this, okay? This is biblical. I'm just researching and making points. This is how the devil moves. So what happened was, there were two very prominent men. They were both gay, and they got into a position of authority. Go look it up. And they changed that being gay is not a mental illness anymore. And because of that, a lot of stuff has happened. What am I doing? Excuse me. I heard that in probably over the last 3 years in a few places at least. Because if you allow it, I have nothing against gay people at all. If you allow it, then it changes the order of God, right? It does. You have to learn how to control lust. Clearly, if not the most powerful structure to attack, is the ideal family, or nuclear family they call it, because that holds the world together, and the world structure, which is vitally important. So this is if I was the devil, okay? Let's consider in the age we live in, with phones, smart devices, and TVs, with ever more new technologies. Tech is what ripped this structure and many others apart. I don't think it's any other way, okay? Because I grew up in it more than anyone watching my video. I grew up right when, like in television or Atari, I was right there, like I grew up in it. More than anyone. Yes, the church too today. It's difficult to have a unique look about your congregation because of the world and what others look like, dress, act, and believe in, instead of being, your lone, unique church just with the Bible. First, I would do all I could through TV and internet to show how free and glamorous it is to be a free woman. To work just like men, to do and to attain higher goals in competition with them. I would target them young, with dreams of being rich, having many boyfriends, not being attached to men for long, hence the independent woman. I would also attract them to articles of clothing, shoes, and so on, to persuade them away from being married and making money to buy these things. I would use television and advertisements to show models living the high life without the need for marriage and for God. I would slowly spread lies that women are equal to men in everything, which is happening right now. So when I say that, I'm not saying women aren't equal to men. We are no better than women. Men are no better than women. What I mean is certain things, like they're not as strong as us. They can't build roads. They don't build buildings. They don't do the heavy lifting. They don't protect. Who builds all our cities, roads, and buildings? Like, don't debate with me on that. It's true. This all would spark so much debate all the way from childhood with a society like this, guaranteed. And with this, many feminists will be born. And are they? They are. I would cast a light about how abusive men are, which isn't even true. And I don't mean towards the ones that have had abuse. I know it's true because I read the statistics. The way that they're portraying it isn't happening. The proper way of a woman is lost to the world. And the reality is that it wasn't that way just 60 short years ago. We're completely lost. Television has done this and everything that followed. You lose identity when you engage in a hive mindset. This is quite powerful. So to finish up that one off, I would just say television, ads, internet has disrupted everything in women. The boys would be obvious, so I'm talking about boys like younger boys. Well, the devil masculinized women, so they would make them masculine. I didn't say that. With equality, places of position, women in, like, boxing, MMA. I'm not saying it's bad for them to do it, but like putting it on TV and stuff like that. I would tell men that it's okay for women to take their roles. Just that alone replaces the man. With a woman, think of the children, the boys watching all of this. It's okay to be feminine. Be in touch with your feminine side. There's nothing wrong with doing that, okay? But you don't do that kind of stuff like outwardly to be a man. With a working woman working, why would they ever need a man now? Isn't that right now? And what happens in the independent woman, and what happens with them is at age 35 to 45, they say, I'm alone now. And they make many videos telling the younger women the truth, and those women won't listen to them. They just want to go their way. They're saying, hey, listen, I'm alone now. Like, it's just, or they're, they have so much baggage, right? A perfect way to wreck God's design. So that's a perfect way to wreck God's design. Who will protect the woman in hardships? Even MMA won't do much against a man with a woman who knows MMA. That's 175 to 220 pounds, or a man that knows how to fight. A study I read said that it was society, meaning the big rich elites that make billions of dollars, wanted to. So this is how women working all came about. And yes, these are the facts. I don't have enough time to give all the facts with every one of them. You're going to have to look these up. It was the rich elites who have big companies, who wanted to attract women to work to make more money, but it was only enriching them. Their idea was to attract women through advertising, TV. That's why I'm saying this stuff is so bad. The media, because it tricked women to work. It said, you're going to make more money. You're going to be independent. And it didn't work out that way. It didn't work out that way. The other structure was better, obviously. They said, you're going to make more money, so it was a scam to get more people working, to make them more money. It found that it enriched the elites with more workers and less pay. These jobs are taken from men, and the wages are lowered. It may appear that you make more money, but the overall stresses in the family don't say so. So you have, yin yang, whatever you say, and it's not. It doesn't end up on the good side. It just causes stress. The family isn't nearly as close as they could be in either the children raised themselves by sitters or daycare workers, depending on the age. In some cases it works out, but who wants their kids raised by somebody else? It's not always bad, but can you trust people? And you hear stories of like abuse. I would use advertisements in movies, TV, to make it okay for men to dress in certain ways, act in certain ways, like this woke. It's a perfect breeding ground to spread this on all college campuses. I would do my best to hire woke professors. So you got to start at the professors, right? To get to the kids, you got to hire the right people to sway their minds. Only the awake students would go to different schools, like in the States, like conservative ones. For example, you see in the States right now, it's not even worth going to university anymore unless you find a proper one. For example, you see men walking around with those, like those baby carriers, like on their chests. And I just have to say, it's those types of things. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, with a man taking care. But when you start looking like a woman, that's just my opinion, man. I think one thing leads to another. I would say, yeah, it's okay to be a woman. Make it cool for dad to be mom and take her role. And yes, men have to take that role sometimes, of course, right? And there isn't anything wrong with that. It's when you start looking like a woman, you start taking all those roles. I'm not saying anything is wrong with it, but where does it end? This biblically is a woman's God-given and important job. They do it much better. We certainly change, and I realize that what a woman does raising a kid can be much more difficult than what a man does at work. We certainly change and know that God does not. I would absolutely saturate every commercials, movies, and ads I could to show what man's role is. So the saying goes, right? If you say a lie long enough, people will start to believe it. Well, if you pound that long enough, that's what growing minds are going to start to believe. Not everyone's going to believe it, but to turn people from God in this age, like it's happening right now, on a big scale, I would make as many comic book movies and video games as possible and purchase all media and movie production companies because, hey, these rich elites are getting so rich, they're able to buy up, new competition and stuff. People, okay, I'll sell. And that's what money does. Now you see where this is led. Why believe in God when I can show you many gods? Lower G. Why waste your time opening up some stupid book where the only real truth of this life is? The only book that is alive. Think about that. Do you know that? It's literally like the book Jumanji. I'm not kidding you. The Bible, like you go your whole life and there's Bibles everywhere. And little do you know that one book is the most important book that you could ever imagine, and it's alive. It literally is alive because it's God's word. It's eternal. It's eternal. Technology will do most of the work to distract kids and adults. There'll be so much entertainment, and why bother meeting a woman or a man when you can, this would be more towards a man, when you can just order a realistic sex doll. I did a video on this a while back. I started talking about this way before other people were talking about this because I saw the potential. You better believe that they have one that's exactly like a woman. And they're gonna, you could probably rent them. You could probably, sell them for, I don't know what they're. I think when I looked, it was like $20,000, and they're, people are marrying these types of things. And if they're 20 grand now, that's what like an LED TV was like 15 years ago. So imagine it'll be like the price of a TV for a woman. That's where we're going. Pardon me. It's not as bad today. Kidney stone, it's not really moving. But I still don't feel well. What need will a man have for sex when he has a sex doll that looks like any woman? And for that matter, I'm sure all you have to do is take a picture of any woman you like, and it can guesstimate, what the body circumference, diameter, texture, color, everything is. You better believe it. That's where we're going. After many of these things are implemented to the rest who still follow traditions, I would try to isolate them and make the rest of society think of them as strange and foreign. Something like white supremacy. This is happening. They're calling it white supremacy. There is no white supremacy. If there is, it's such a small margin. I think that because it's happening right now. They call it white nationalism, which means you believe in the Bible and love your country. Like, I'm in Canada, we used to be like, we are Canadians. People love Canadians until the Trudeau government. We were like the most loved place on earth, people, until he came around. And I believe it was Barack Obama who made it like this. It's not okay to love your own country. I believe that's when it started. I'm not trying to pick on anyone. I don't want to do that, but I believe it is. So you love your country and you love God, right? What's wrong with that? Well, they're trying to make that wrong. And that's why they're going to come down on us. This applies to all countries, but the real attack is on the United States or North America because they're the strongest link in the world and they have to break it, right? The United Nations would love to take North America for an antichrist system. I'm not saying the UN is, but there's a lot of stuff that's very questionable. It would take decades, but sometimes I don't realize how long my videos are. I thought there was going to be like 4 minutes. It would take decades, but by infiltrating the lawmakers for mental disorders and also the church, being gay is no longer wrong, and the church will now accept it. It's like there was a ploy. Wait, there was, and it worked. The key word here is to desensitize the masses and infiltrate the establishments. Where once any type of recreational drug was taught in schools to kids, so for me it was like grade 6, they came with like a canine and a bag of drugs, and to show us what not to ever touch. It was like, the Reagan, like just say no. His wife Nancy Reagan, just say no to drugs. Start by legalizing marijuana. So it happened here in Canada. First it was, where was it? The Netherlands. If I do that, for sure I can make the users like pets in the zombified states, only stressing out the system from induced mental illnesses like paranoia and schizophrenia. My plan is to eventually decriminalize and destigmatize the public, the police, the authorities, so there's less crime. That's what they were saying at the beginning. We've done studies in Portugal. We've done studies in the Netherlands. There's less crime because we decriminalized drugs. But now our report has come in and it's just the opposite. Our mental health system is being stressed from people who are smoking weed. I tell you, I walk out this building, more often than not, I'm going to smell weed almost immediately. What's wrong with marijuana? There's a lot wrong with it. After being legalized now for a number of years, a study has come out about marijuana causing more stress in the healthcare system, which I saw coming. How can it go wrong? It's only a hallucinogen. Do you know it's a hallucinogen? It can make you hallucinate just like LSD can. It only causes paranoia and delusions. And I just wanted to say there's nothing, I don't find anything wrong with people with like very severe pain using it. But, you know, I would say use CBD. But for cases like that, when people's pain is intolerable, that's their only choice. You know, don't make this what you do all day. You're never going to get anywhere. I'll make legal drugs, video games, and alcohol your idols. Things will be so messed up that people actually believe Andrew Tate is a good man. No, I don't believe he's a good person. I don't see, you know, I'll pray for him. I just don't know what people are looking at. You know, what's this red pill, this and that? It's just like, turn to God. With the Bible out of the picture, I'll set out to punish men with women. I'm going back to the 1980s here. Through my media companies, I will push soft porn first to desensitize people for free and make channels like pay-per-view if you want to see more. Surely good men will stop this madness, like Bible-believing Christians. More and more people are willing to pay for even the least revealing sex. Heck, even small boys will be pining to watch Blue Nuit at midnight, only stirring their imaginations towards sex and all associated sexual activity with each other, toys, or even watching their porn channel that their parents paid for. So when I was a kid, it was Blue Nuit, and it was like all scrambled and stuff, okay? Just imagine that. That's what a lot of kids did, okay? It was like Channel 5, a French channel, and it was all scrambled, and we were excited about a scrambled channel that you could barely see anything. You might laugh at that. I guess it is funny, but boy, this is longer than I thought. Eventually it'll be normal. Just like recreational drugs, I'll slowly desensitize through the decades more and more soft sex scenes in movies and hopefully television. I saw it coming slowly through the movies. I used to watch a lot of movies like in the theater. And then hopefully television shows, but that's a long shot, isn't it? I hope one day soon most of the Western world will be watching these shows and sorry, I didn't write this down the best. All the time, leaving all other activities behind them, especially God. Who could go for God when you can watch sex, do drugs, and play video games all day? Before you know it, women will take fashion tips from these adulterous women and wear skimpy outfits that will take time. The only thing I need is eyeballs on the screen to watch everything. Possibly I'll be able to sway women away from reserved clothing that left an imagination for men to run wild and develop. I don't know, maybe something called Lululemon pants that make women look naked. Don't worry, men can handle that quite well. So, you know, I don't think men did handle that quite well, and I think that did a lot of damage. You might say, oh, you're old-fashioned, but hey, I'm a born-again Christian. I know what's right, I know what's wrong. I know the way a woman should dress. I just, you know, like, it was good when there was stuff to the imagination. It was also good when you could when there was no social media and you weren't looking at a million people, and you were in love with a woman who was in your own city, you know, close to you, like, or in school or something. You know, that's it's romantic, right? How am I doing so far? Identity is what I need to wipe away. The pride that some of these countries of the earth has is sickening. This is me talking as the devil. I want a hive mind. Don't all countries want to be safe and protect one another just in case of another more powerful country waging war? Why don't we do it and call it the United Nations and come together to condemn whatever we can? If I can take the identity of the world, the women, the men, the kids, I've won. I would consistently push an agenda for control of them all to avoid anything bad happening, and to have a veto to any belligerent country, nation. So, I've seen this before. It was called Babel, the Tower of Babel, Nimrod. So that's what I have today. I'm in a rush here. God bless everyone. Take care.